Hi, let's talk about insulin for type 2 diabetics. So you might have been told by your doctor that your diabetes is going to progress over time and at some point you might be put on insulin and that you're going to become insulin dependent, which means that you're going to be on insulin for the rest of your life. And the reason for this is that your pancreas is no longer creating enough insulin for you. Whether that means that it cannot create almost any insulin, or whether that just means that you're way too insulin resistant for your pancreas to be able to keep up, is nothing that they will even talk about or address. They just say that your pancreas is failing, you're going to need to be on insulin. So what I want to tell you is that this is probably not true in most cases. In most cases, you do not have to be on insulin. So before you make a decision about whether you should go on insulin or not, I think you need to know a few things about insulin itself. So I just want to highlight a few things. So number one, insulin is a storage hormone. So it will store fat, it will store carbohydrates, it will store amino acids or proteins, and that is in the form of muscle. So yes, insulin helps with muscle building, but it doesn't mean that you can just eat a lot of protein and get big muscles. You need to do some work as well. Secondly, it puts you at risk for hypoglycemia, which is the medical term for low blood sugar. And we don't really talk about this very often because medically it's not really a problem. It's not anything that's causing diabetic complications or anything that they worry about. It's the same as with people that have low blood pressure. We don't really talk about that because it's not a huge problem. It's usually a problem when it's high. But for any individual that has experienced a hypoglycemic attack, it is a problem. So you might get low blood sugar and then you're gonna feel terrible for several days. So you might get the shakes, you get headache, you might feel sick, you get blurry vision, you might get brain fog, difficulty speaking, people might think you're drunk, etc. There are lots of things that can be going on, and for some people it takes 3 days to recover, and that's no way of spending your life. That's 3 days of your life that you will never get back because you were taking a medication that's supposed to help you, and instead it just made you feel terrible. So keep that in mind as well. You will also be at increased risk for cardiovascular disease, and it's the insulin that is doing it. It's not the high blood sugar, it's the high insulin. Also, there are studies showing that diabetics who get insulin have a higher all-cause mortality risk. So what that means is that you have a higher risk than a diabetic who is not on insulin to die from any cause, like whatever it is, just dying, okay? And then there's an increased risk for certain types of cancer that have been studied. So a few of them would be breast cancer, colon cancer, endometrial cancer, kidney, bladder, etc. So when you know that it's not some sort of magic drug that will make things better, you may want to start to think about fixing the problem instead of just saying, hey, okay, I'll take insulin and everything will be fine, because everything will not be fine. You see, there is a professor in the UK, his name is Roy Taylor, and he's at Newcastle University, and he has been studying diabetes and insulin resistance for many years, and he has come to the conclusion that when a type 2 diabetic pancreas is deemed to not be functioning anymore, it's not in an irreparable state, okay? Which means that we can fix it. It's not like with type 1 diabetics. They have an autoimmune condition, which means that their pancreas is unable to produce any insulin. This is not the case with type 2s. So what he found is that the pancreas is just so full of fat, like interspersed all throughout your pancreas between the cells, etc., that it's literally isolating the cells that secrete and produce the insulin they don't get enough signals that they should be doing that, and they get slow and sluggish, and nothing really functions because there's just too much fat in the way. So when this is also in combination with insulin resistance, you literally have the combination that will just cause a nuclear reaction in terms of not functioning, blood sugar is going to go through the roof, and you're going to feel sick. And your pancreas is just not going to be able to keep up. So the solution to the problem is to have your body burn off that fat in your pancreas so that your pancreas can start functioning again. So how do we do this then? That's the question. So first of all, we need to find a way to clear the pancreas of the fat buildup. And the only way that you can do that is by switching on your fat burning. Okay? Which means that you need to lower your insulin, lower, not higher. So this is the opposite of what you do when you take insulin shots. Because what I told you in the beginning is that insulin is a storage hormone. It will keep storing fat into that pancreas. That's what it does. So if you're taking insulin shots, you will be in fat storage mode throughout the day, every time you take this, and for as long as this insulin is acting. Usually people get short acting to take before meals, and then they get long acting to take at night time. And as long as you have a certain amount of insulin, it will signal store, store, store. So you won't be able to fix the problem with your pancreas. So once you start doing this, you will be on insulin for the rest of your life, because there's no way that your pancreas is going to start functioning again as long as you add a lot of insulin. So we need to do the opposite. So number one, what you need to do is lower your requirements for insulin so that your pancreas can keep up with your needs. And once you do that, there's usually no need to take any external insulin, and you're going to be on your way to reversing your diabetes and getting your pancreas fully functional again. So the best way of doing this is to virtually remove all your carbohydrates from your diet, because carbohydrates is the macronutrient that will stimulate insulin the most. So if you remove all the carbohydrates, you will still get some insulin release and stimulation from the protein, and to a very, very tiny degree from the fats that you're eating, but you're taking away the big chunk of it by removing the carbohydrates. You can also do a combination of a very low carbohydrate diet and an intermittent fasting. So what you could do is that you eat breakfast, lunch and dinner, and you finish your dinner at, let's say, 6 p.m. and then you don't have breakfast until 10 a.m. That way you're going to have 16 hours where you're not eating anything, where your insulin is going to go down, your blood sugar is going to go down, and the fat burning is going to be switched on. So this is when your pancreas can start releasing that fat into your bloodstream, and your body can use it for energy. But anytime you eat, the insulin is going to go up, and obviously you're going to have more nutrients to store. So it's going to start storing things again. So you want to go longer periods of time without eating, if you can. And the longer you can make this intermittent fasting window, the better. But a minimum of 12 hours, and I think pretty much anyone can do 12 hours, up to 24 hours is all good. I would aim for 14 to 16 if you're a beginner, and if you're more advanced, you can maybe start moving towards 20 or so. So only when you're managing to do this, your insulin requirements will be so low that your pancreas can keep up with what you're eating. So just by doing this, you might notice that your blood sugars are not going to go through the roof. They might stay stable. They might be slightly elevated, but if they're just slightly elevated, you probably don't have to worry about it, because with time it's going to go down, and it's better to let your body repair and do its own thing than just taking medications for it, which actually doesn't help you reverse your diabetes. If you need medications, there are other medications that you can take that are less harmful than insulin, but you would have to speak to your doctor about that. So if you like this video and if you like the contents that we're putting out on this channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Press that little bell icon so that you get a message every time we are releasing a new video, and share it with your friends if they are diabetic or needs to hear this. And if you want more help and tips on how to reverse your diabetes, you can also join our Facebook group, which is for type 2 diabetics only, and we will do our very best to help you in there.